been doing last night.
I did indeed, yeah. It's
So,
very good it was too.
in historical terms, how new is this? I mean, it seems to me there's a link between aliens, but also the kind of millennial, we're all going to die. In the past it was in a thermonuclear fireball, now it's with rising oceans. We're always worried about something. And then for much of the 26th century and a little bit before, we've been worried about aliens. When did people first start worrying about aliens, and did they write about them or write in books? Or
yeah, I mean, the idea of extraterrestrial, or I shouldn't say supernatural beings is a long-standing one. And so before we called them aliens, you would have just called them angels and demons, essentially. I mean, going back, like I said, into the 19th century, you have Giovanni Schiaparelli, I think I'm pronouncing that name right, who sees those lines on Mars and calls them canali, which means channels, that's natural, as opposed to Percival Lowell misreading it and seeing it as canals, right? So that starts getting us thinking about, it's when we've got the scientific equipment to be able to see that and say, wow, maybe there's other creatures living there, as opposed to up in the heavens. And I think that's where you get that.
Was there, I'm never quite sure of this, at the time when Lowell was sort of wrongly promulgating this idea of the canals on Mars, was public opinion generally of the view that there were Martians at that point?
Yeah, and you could find some great newspaper coverage of this time, first Martians and pictures.
So we've kind of already been, as a civilization, we've kind of already rehearsed living under the assumption of extraterrestrial life, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because we did it in around 1900.
Yeah.
But then our worries was Wells, and it's all going to end horribly. Yeah. And he was right. I mean, because there was obviously thinking about the World War and all that was to come and all the rest of it. So when was Wells the first person to actually think this could be horrible? Or up until that had all been benign aliens. Yeah,
I mean, it's not that long between. I mean, Wells is writing this at exactly the same time that they're talking about that. Schiaparelli and Lowell. So it's not necessarily that it took a while and then we got this story. It's like it happened right there, essentially. And in terms of, I mean, there are a couple movies coming out currently. The Fifth Wave, the YA one, and the next Independence Day Resurrection, about aliens coming and destroying the Earth. I mean, from a story perspective, that's far more dramatic than your basic E.T. who's here to help us and talk to us, because the drama in E.T. is, are they going to discover him? Okay, that's conservative for one movie, but are they going to kill us can serve you for dozens of movies. So that's why that story just keeps getting told and told and told.
I quite like the fact that actually it was our germs that killed them.
Yeah.
So maybe they have come and
they got cold and that was it.
So one sneeze gone.
From that we can conclude that they're really thick, aren't they?
Or have not evolved immune systems.
Take their zinc before they get here.
So have there been many confident views about the aliens being benevolent super beings, or cultural tropes in books or whatever? Obviously in 2001 they were kind of well-meaning, although they're very weird and had very strange taste in hotels, where he ends up at the end in that very weird place.
I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I've looked into a little bit about UFO cults and the ways in which people think about it, and you can go and talk to them, and they've got different gradations. So tall, thin grays are our friends, but they're constantly fighting with the short, and they've got a whole, taxonomy of who these aliens are, and some are benevolent and some are intent upon our destruction. And so you can find, like the Raelians, for example, in terms of the ways in which they thought about it, was different from some of these other ones. It's a wide swath of beliefs on whether they're here for.
But these are all these aren't mainstream. I mean, it's more about how what it is about why. I mean, you think you don't want to be alone. Yeah, you're frightened. You're frightened of the big infinite gulf. It doesn't worry me. But why is it attractive, the idea that there will be nice aliens? Does it mean we're not responsible anymore?
I'm not frightened of being alone or anything like that. I think it is more. I've got a certain number of years, and it's almost a very selfish opinion where, like, I want humanity to accomplish everything it can accomplish before I drop dead.
Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but I hope it doesn't anyway.
But it's that thing where, like, there is so much more to discover. There's so much more to this universe than meets the eye. How much of it is going to be unraveled within my lifetime? The more that can be unraveled, the happier I will be, the more satisfied I will feel, the more I feel my life's been exciting or whatever. So that's one aspect to it. But I think it's about, I think that this is the one big question.
It would also give us a good sort of, I mean, if we detected an alien civilization, it would kind of give us encouragement that we don't have to screw things up. You know,
well, unless all they're saying is, you know, you look like you'd be good to eat and we're coming to get you.
Yeah.
And then you'd be rather worried. It depends whether one assumes that
then we just have to get Will Smith on the phone then.
I'm not sure it works as easy as that. You assume that in Star Trek that they've gone beyond wars and all the rest of it and they've managed to settle things. But maybe they haven't. Maybe they're Klingons.Maybe they're actually rent by civil war and perpetual hatred and bigotry, which, I mean, I do think you wouldn't get that far then. I do wonder where they got their star drives from. I think they're probably stolen.
But I mean, I know I was sort of joking about the sort of bacterial infection thing earlier, but actually that would be the killer, wouldn't it? We are surrounded by a sea of germs that we have adapted and evolved our immune systems to be reasonably tolerant of, and that's why, you know, we're not constantly ill. They're going to enter that for the first time. And akin to, you know, you go to a new environment and you get ill. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you start school, you start university, you get ill, or your kids start school and they bring it home with them. So they're coming here and God knows what they're going to die of, and they will never have met a cold. They will never have met norovirus.
Well, if they're not based on DNA, the virus wouldn't be able to do anything anyway.
But a bacterial infection or a parasitic infection, or a parasite will suffer, admittedly, but you know, they might have a go.
It's a bit of a leap, but I suppose we should also consider the fact that they may have, you know, they may be a machine intelligence. I mean, you know, a biological species may sort of supplant themselves with a sort of robotic bodies.
Well, can't we then ask them to calculate pi to an infinite
we
number
could.
of bases and they fall over or something?
Well, let me propose this.
Why is 42 the answer to?
Well, the alien contact scenario, we're all talking about one contact scenario where alien life visits us in person, and we're talking about germs and yada, yada, yada. If you, again, go back to faster than light travel and things like that, we know that there are lots of limitations on physical faster than light travel. But the question of whether information can travel faster than light is a completely different question. Mm-hmm. If we discover, let's say, wormholes or something like that, through which you can't send people or objects, but you can send information, then why can't we have alien contact purely on an information basis? They can beam tele, and we can watch what's going on there. We're making great leaps and bounds in virtual reality. We might be able to travel to another planet purely in a virtual sense, where we interface our senses with a virtual environment and we feel like we're there. This whole sort of, it's sort of the avatar concept in the sense that we might be able to plug into a virtual world where we can experience what's going on in another planet. I'm more inclined to think that that's more feasible than us actually traveling in spaceships to another planet. Information could get there.
A lot safer going to Mars. I mean, I'd wear a suit and feel like I was at Mars, cold and whatever, but I'd rather do that than actually go there and then
if you could do that realistically.
Or it could be like the Matrix, and you know, we're just getting told.
Well, no, that's
what it's like.
Somebody recently did an experiment and published proof that we don't live in a simulated universe.
If we were in the Matrix, then you know, you could imagine it's anything.
But I think there are people working on that. Is it tachyons?
The things that can't go slower than light, the speed of light.
They have to go faster than the speed
They're not
of
actually
light.
proved.
Yes, there are people working on this, aren't they? And looking at
but physics
to use the Doppler effect to help them.
Physics doesn't forbid particles from traveling faster than the speed of light. It just prevents you from accelerating to the speed of light. So if something's already traveling faster than the speed of light, it can stay traveling faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, it can't slow down. That's what they're saying for tachyons. Yeah.
So that might be the way we make alien contact.
What amused me was a few years ago when you had that that result from the experiment where they were sending neutrinos between CERN and Italy, wasn't it? And they were arriving a bit earlier than and it was, oh, actually they're faster than light. And within about 3 days, there were physicists saying, oh yeah, we can cope with that. We can cope with superluminal information transfer. That's okay. It was always sort of implicit in the theories. Then they found it was like wiring.
Yeah,
It was just such a tiny little pathetic amount. You know, it wasn't going to help you get to the nearest star. Anyway.
Yeah. But I think they would rapidly, the theories would be taken down and rebuilt to incorporate superluminal signaling very straightforwardly.
Physicists would be very happy with
They would be thrilled with it. Yeah. I was really gutted about that.
Okay, so there are aliens of whatever size, dimensionality, or whatever. Choose one, and what did it look like?
Choose one.
Come up with one. Come up with an alien that your favourite alien. My favourite alien.
I don't know, Alf. I mean, I would. If there are intelligent aliens on other planets, I don't think they would look like us, but I think they would correspond to the same laws of natural selection as us. So there would be some convergent evolution, and that they would have the same sorts of forms that we would find most optimized here on Earth.
Well, apart from slime, which is boring, if we have any sort of hint of intelligent life, I think it'll most likely be some sort of machine-based consciousness, some sort of an asteroid-sized spacecraft that's just been cruising around the galaxy for millions of years and may at some point have derived from some sort of biological precursor. But I think machine-based life is.
Well, I'm going to go with slime because I think it's the most likely. So just some single-cell biofilm smooching over the surface of some deep ocean, and that's it.
I'm going to go more alien that has things that are closer to us. If they've got sort of intelligence, they've probably got some sort of brain, and then they'll need some sort of casing for that, and they'll probably need reproductive organs and sensors and things like that. But I think what's really interesting is at least I always think that an alien would be symmetrical because we are. And you sort of think, actually, why would they be symmetrical? Because even Daleks have got a sucker on one side and a laser on the other. Even they've worked that out in Doctor Who. So I guess they probably wouldn't be symmetrical.
So a giant sponge, a walking sponge.
Well, I would actually tend to disagree with you. It's a good point you brought up. I think, for example, that aliens living on an Earth-like planet would have 2 eyes, binocular vision. 1 is too little, 3 is too many. And they would be located symmetrically because that's the best way to see. They would have 2 ears. Plenty of organisms have
got more than 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Spiders, you think of Operbinia, which is one of these things that lived in...
It's not the most efficient form of vision. If
it
you
is for spiders.
For them it is.
You want to catch something, it's very good.
I think, if you're looking at binocular vision, 2 ears, because you can get that kind of hearing, you have like the earlobes which serve a function. So I think that Earth-like conditions would breed an Earth-like intelligent life with certain similarities. Symmetric, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth. 1 mouth is all you need. So I think, they may not look like us, but they would share some of these basic characteristics.
Biologist, I think it's Simon Conway Morris, thinks that if we ever did meet aliens, which he says we won't ever do, but if we did, he thinks they would look broadly humanoid.
He's got ulterior religious motives because he thinks that...
Who of us don't?
Not religious motives, so that's part of his idea about what's going on there.
Yeah.
Name your life form.
Well, I do think slime's the most likely, but I'll have a go. And I think like Danielle said, I think that you would assume that they would have a brain if they're going to be communicating. So again, casing. I don't think they need eyes necessarily. It depends if there's sort of the levels of light or the types of light, but they will have some kind of sensory organ, but it might not look like we expect it to look like. I reckon they'll have some kind of motion way, so legs or something like legs, something like hands so they can do tools, because if they're going to be communicating with us, they need tool building. So they need something like hands, something like arms. So I will go for that.
An octopus? Could be an octopus.
Could be an octopus. It doesn't have to walk on 2 legs as long as it can do tools. So their feet could work in that way.
Okay. Who knows what lurks in the depths of the ocean? Perhaps they are building the tools now. If you've enjoyed this discussion and you want to see more, why not subscribe now?